Welcome to Mindful Drawing. I'm Robert, and I'll be your guide on this meditation practice that enters a space of mindfulness through the act of drawing. This week, I was inspired by the sinuous movement of plants, that slow growing that leaves behind a nice tension trail of how it's interacted with the environment, how it's maneuvered itself for light, and how it holds itself structured against gravity. Inspired a little bit by, some tightness, some back issues, thinking in the spine, our active stabilization, always trying to keep that in the right place, and maybe feeling some of that easy flow, easy movement, easy positioning of the plants, supple and soft to the breeze, held, suspended in their posture. My primary visual inspiration is a Dracaena palm in the other room, just looking at it while watering it and cleaning up its leaves. But from there, letting it be more open, more simple and abstract, just thinking of a series of segments, this grass-like structure building gradually upon itself, each segment an opportunity for something to sprout or grow, or a way for it to change its orientation, to realign to the moment, to the light, to be present for that creation of something new. And then that creation lives on, guides the next, influences the previous, becomes part of the being. Just like we'll do with our drawing as we bring attention to our hand, attention to the moment of interaction and creation, and let that inspire the next move and gather together to create a whole on the paper. I'm just going to draw with a simple pen today. I've had a Bristol paper taped down to a table. Feel free to use a sketchbook, a piece of notebook paper, anything you'd like to draw with will be fine. Nothing special, just a few rectangles connected together until they make something with figure, form, and a little bit of life on the page there. So go ahead and gather your supplies, establish your space, and let's draw together. And so very, very simple version, we might just draw a rectangle and add a rectangle of slightly different size and shape onto that. You could think of it like a palm trunk or branch or a bamboo segment in general principle, these things that grow in segments along the way, or anything else that comes to mind. And as they grow along, they change gradually towards a tapering endpoint. Some may be longer or shorter, a little bit wider, a little bit narrower, depending on when they grew, what was happening then. Maybe a little story starts to come into play, and they can turn just a little bit at each point as we work across the page. We'll be looking at providing some flow, directionality, but being present in the drawing of each segment, giving our own character to that. So beyond the simple rectangle, draw a very large one over here. Could have a little shape to it, a little taper here and there, maybe a little end lip or something, a little dip at the top. You can come around and start to give it some edging, feel some of the roundness of it to the segmentation, wherever you feel comfortable between the simple and the more detailed or complex. And all of this detail can be added in as it grows, so it doesn't have to come in the beginning. You can start very simple and work back across as we draw. I think I'll start generally simple, maybe a little roundness to my corners, something in there for just feeling a little bit more organic, not quite as rectangular, and see where they begin to grow to. Overall, the page is an open space, a big territory that we can work through and around. We may cluster the growing, segmented branches in one area, leaving a nice open space for viewing. It could fill everything out. That is the journey that you take on your page as the pen starts, and to find the beginning of that journey, of that opening of space, Maybe set down the pen or pencil for just a moment. Let the hands become comfortable and familiar with whatever you're drawing in or on. Maybe it's a table like this, maybe a chair, maybe just a sketchbook on your lap. Noticing its position, noticing if you can reach around it relatively comfortably. If there's areas you can't reach, you'll probably stay away from them anyway. Knowing the boundary and perimeter. As you're ready, picking up that instrument again, the pen or the pencil, moving it around the page in your primary hand or comfortable hand, finding the zone, and maybe watching it with the eyes of where you feel most engaged in the movement. That'll be our starting point. So it could be any which direction, any place, left or right, up or down. It'll work generally from the bottom up, I guess. Go the other way if you like. Find our first location. Give ourselves a moment to take a couple of breaths, just being ready to begin that changing of the empty page. And when you feel ready, take a nice breath in to fill out, fill up. And as you exhale, begin engaging the page with that first segment, the rectangle with just a little bit of character. And as we get used to it and engaging with the drawing, you can draw along at your own pace, just adding similar segment upon segment, some short, some long, some wide, some narrow. Trying to look at how they might interface. Does one hold the other, more natural like a plant or something? Or does one stack on the other? Whatever images come to mind become part of the narrative of your drawing and expression. Do they go in a kind of straight line? Do they wobble back and forth or begin to get the direction to them? Turning, realigning, in the case of the plant, to the light, to the local conditions with each segment. In the case of the drawing, to the feeling of how the hand might move, to the next kind of comfortable position that brings ease, to forming a little rectangle on the page. Just following the guide from your body, from your eye, maybe a little bit of imagination that starts to seep in. Once we get a few drawn there, it gives us a sense of how we see the segments, how we are now present with the shaping action of drawing. We are engaging with our pencil and the paper. And we can take a few grounding breaths to notice in that a little deeper. Start to taper the shapes a little bit, slowly reaching towards a direction. As you start your next segment, begin it with presence. Take a space of breath, breathe in, and somewhere along the exhale, begin the drawing into that emptying of the self, emptying of the lungs, relaxing of the mind just into that action of forming a little rectangle. And on each preceding one, we take a breath in, find our start place, and work through the gentle exhale to mark out another space on that movement or trajectory, a segment upon segment, taking our time for a few here in the early part of the exercise to really establish your presence, that cycle of inhalation and exhalation, a meter from within, a measure of our engagement, taking the time to replenish and working in the space of a relaxing exhale. As you may reach an edge, begin again, somewhere again, down at the bottom, near or far, a field of grass, a cluster of branches, whatever it may be. But on that path, the same guiding cycle, a little relaxation of the whole body-mind connection into the moment now. A fairly full breath, and a gradual relaxed exhalation, taking up a little space for that segment, beginning or anywhere on the trajectory. Noticing now with the breath, the way you move your hand in the drawing. Noticing subtle cues your eye might be giving you, slight bend at the top with a little bit more three-dimensional look, or a more squared off side profile, just a part of what you're seeing. And noticing how your imagination and your hand begin to work when you give them some space. Just breathing in, seeing, exhaling, and interacting. A cycle of ourself in the exercise. Simple form, repeatable, but infinitely variable on a subtle scale. Lots of room to play, to maneuver the pen or pencil, to express shape, outline, profile in new ways. Each one beginning with that deep, refreshing inhalation, each one an expression of that space between as the body exhales, the mind clears, the hand makes a shape. And if you can bring your attention to the direction of drawing, the process of drawing, noticing, do you work left to right, or maybe down to up or up to down? For the first few in that cycle of breath, just seeing how you naturally want to start. I find I want to drift back and forth a little bit. Sometimes going from the bottom right around the rectangle, sometimes on the next wanting to start the bottom left. No need to change how it goes, just to watch it and notice. While we all have a little bit different tendencies, the way we organize thought and action when given that space of replenishing inhalation and relaxed expression to the breath. And if you reach the end of any series of segments, beginning again somewhere on the page, new, near the same, in another direction if you like. Okay. There's no base, no starting place for any of these at the moment. Just some play. The many rounds of deep replenishing, oxygenation, calm, smooth exhalation. You bring a lightness, sensation in the head. If you're getting a lot of oxygen, you notice a little lightening of the mind. Or if you're breathing very intensely, maybe a bit of tingle in that space between breaths, giving us an indication maybe it's time to relax the deepness and let it return to a normal cadence. Let our attention move through the space we're making somewhere else in the action of creating. So let that attention on the inhalation and exhalation cycle fall back. Draw at a pace that feels comfortable. Let the mind focus on the tip of the pen or pencil. See with the eye the way the hand moves. Notice the structure you bring to this interaction between page on a surface, hand around a cylinder, the position of the body to the paper. Does the palm rest a bit? Sits over the page, maybe it leaves a mark of itself as it picks up some ink. If you like, you can work to lift that. Depending on your position, you may find ease with it, or as you reach farther out, it becomes a little more challenging. You're just the support of a light finger. As the pencil and arm connect through to that paper, you don't need to rub or smear, but if you do, it's just a page in a sketchbook, a little exercise of finding something, drawing these segments connected. Notice the movements of the hand. Are they continuous, flowing around, or segmented themselves, perhaps forming a side, closing the top, working around evenly. Sharp or curved, all the subtle little things that you've opened up to in the space. And the more segments that accumulate, the more figures that extend and dance, the more we have potentials for overlap. It's letting the eye guide where the hand may go next. Things reacting to the space they inhabit there on that page. While we may not have a perspective, foreground, background, middle ground to begin with, the act of adding each time, one segment at a time, a small movement and growth, each interaction, they can respond to what came before. They can respond to something our eye sees, perhaps in composition. I'm working behind or in front. Fill out your expression there of these meandering, growing structures. We can take a few minutes, just draw with them for now. See where they go, see how they grow. But if you have a lot, you can always move to adding some detail if you're interested, or shading. I think I'll just draw more strands for now. Wind them together, wrap around some space, bring a little depth, and give the page some perspective. As more elements form the page, as the picture grows, we might see more of a scene. Our imagination might lead us to paths of stuff we've experienced, cobbled together from examples in our mind, memories, and imagination that reassembles them into a somewhat plausible condition, something new, potentially forming there on the paper. Following that path, seeing where our eyes take us, where our inner eye takes the hand, things we recognize should be there. Maybe some leaves or fronds from the palm or fern, some blades of grass sneaking out into the space. Or letting something new happen, an invented plant or organism built in a common way, little segments gradually accumulating over time, extending out, allowing for a little articulation, a movement, a directionality and flow, perhaps familiar to gravity, or depending on how you engage your page, maybe a little unfamiliar to the motion of gravity. It's up to you to experiment and express with. Find something alive in that page and drawing. Shapes playing and dancing. Just bringing a little definition in the last couple of minutes, picking an edge consistently the right side, working around the path from before, giving it a little more separation across the top of each segment, grabbing the one after it as it grows up, suggesting maybe a little light to the left. The pen or the pencil, you come back and bring more shading through, give more depth with the beginning of the exercise to see, to open the mind to seeing, begin to map out something there on the paper. It started, maybe the imagination gets enticed, engaged. We keep going deeper, following beyond the few moments, or if we've drawn a lot of segments, got a nice warm practice to the hand or wrist, found that relaxing open interface between imagination, between the pen and the paper, and ourself. And now ready to take that with us to close the chapter on the drawing, to bring the pen or pencil to completion, and let what exists live in its moment, and take ourselves back out into the rest of the day with a little creativity, hopefully some relaxation. After the bulk of the exercise, time present there working with a medium, following that simple series of steps to find a little bit of space of relaxation, of opening, of giving the creativity time to emerge, and of allowing a simple imagination, a simple guiding inspiration to take on its own form in life. I like to step back a moment, breathe, close out that main part of the exercise, calm from the creative process, and let it trickle, diffuse through the mind, maybe come up with a few new things to do, and re-engage for a few minutes afterwards just to bring some closure, bring some new ideas, see what I can find now that that image exists as something to interact with, to be inspired by, to have a dialogue with from our imagination. If you follow along with these exercises regularly, it might be fun to keep kind of a journal or a sketchbook of each thing that happens, flipping to some random page every once in a while, seeing and bringing back some of that space and moment of relaxation and creativity that you put into it, and then being inspired to take it a little further, whether that's in a new iteration on your own, at a desk, in a meeting, while taking a little break from whatever you do during the day, or just drawing right there on top of it, adding more layers, continuing to expand the simple idea into a more complex and evolving world. If you enjoy the exercise, let me know in the comments below what you found while practicing your own mindful drawing. Give it a thumbs up if you like it, and share with your friends. Bring more people to subscribe to the channel for weekly episodes to come, usually Wednesdays here on YouTube. A growing collection of ways of entering the space of drawing, of working in representation or abstraction, for creating, designing, and experiencing your act of mindful drawing, the connection between you and the page, a medium of expression, a place for potential creativity, and hopefully at least a little relaxation. Thank you for joining each week. Draw well.